Hi there! In this video, I'm going to tell about myself, my life, and the actual reason why the hell I created this soul theory. But first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Elena, but I'm using Qui-dam as my pseudonym. I'm 27 years old, and now I'm living in Moscow, Russia. I was born in 1996 in Algiers. It's the capital of Algeria. Actually, the country is situated in the north of Africa. You can see it on this beautiful map. My parents used to work as doctors for the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs back then in this country, in the embassy. Actually, the situation and the atmosphere itself in Algiers at that time was quite, well, I would say dark. The reason for it is the civil war. So from the early childhood, I had to learn how to defend myself. The last sentence is quite a joke. The territory of the embassy was well secured, and I have a friend from the army who actually gave me all the equipment you've seen on the photo. At the beginning of the new millennium, we left the country and returned, but it was my parents returning for Russia. It was my first time being in Russia, and it was too cold, really. This period was about a year and just a little bit, but it was really tense. Yeah, really tense for me. Cause you see me, my just born brother, and my mother lived with my granny because of some family conflict. And it was the time when my cell structure, as I call it, showed herself. In other words, it was the time when my childhood trauma appeared. Hopefully, this period ended for me, hopefully, and we moved to another country for father's business trip. We moved to Mauritania. Mauritania is another northwestern country in Africa, and I'll show you the map a little bit later because there will be a really good reason to do it. I would say that this period, and it was quite long till the end of 2005, was I would say, the happiest in my childhood and actually my childhood itself. The thing is, not only I had, self-organized day every day, but this, I would say, endless freedom to choose whatever I want to be or whatever I want to do. Though, I had some like borders, for example, the walls of the territory of the embassy, but the territory was enough for me, for my little me. The thing is, another thing, is that there were no schools for me at all there. So the whole elementary education I got with the help of my mother. She taught me everything she could, except for English, and something like, music school. It was outside of the embassy, and some painting lessons I got from an artist from Mauritania, but it was for 2 or 3 months, I suppose, because he moved to the New York City, and well, you see. But for this 3 months, he showed me how to draw something like this. And I don't know if you have ever seen something like this, but there is quite similar style in the Trettikov gallery, and when I saw it, I was, happy. So as you can see, there were not so much obligations in my life back then. And what was I doing? I was like training cats, making them more, home cozy and that stuff. I was training turtles, especially how to swim, because we had one problem. Once in a year, it is once, but it's still once, and really great once in a year. There were really heavy rains in Mauritania. Morvan? Хочешь рассказать мне про дожди? Да? No. So, really heavy rains in Mauritania back then, and they flooded all the territory practically, so many creatures could just die in the floods, especially turtles. So me and one of my friends, and actually the only one, trained them how to swim in order to survive. I promised you to show the map of Mauritania, and here's the reason why. It was the 8th of June 2003. I remember early in the morning, me and my whole family just woke up, gathered something, and silently left the house. We were heading to the bunker. The thing is, that day, the military coup d'etat started. It was an attempt, a failed attempt, but still, we spent about 2 or 3 days in the bunker, and we spent even there my birthday. A really happy one. And the reason for it was that thing. Look over here at the map. Our embassy is located here. And the main target for the rebellions was here, the presidential palace. So I even, saw the tank that was not far from our main entrance, but I saw it on the monitors. They have lots of cameras all over the territory in order to not spy, it's a security thing, but it is. So there was a tank. And even some of the shots, they were targeting to the palace, but they got into our buildings. We even found them after that, and we even circled them and labeled with the date of the events. That's a cool story. But this cool and interesting period came to an end. As I said, in December 2005, we went back to Cheboksary, and I entered school in order to complete my elementary education. That was quite a shock, And not only for me, for my classmates too. Just imagine, you're an ordinary guy that lived in an ordinary Russian city, not Moscow, not that modern one, but ordinary Russian city at the beginning of 2006, and you're studying in ordinary Russian school. And just at that time, a girl transferred to your class saying she was born in Africa, just left a country that's situated on the Atlantic Ocean in the Sahara Desert, and she trades a turtle that can grow up like this. Would you believe me? Of course not. And they didn't, too. Well, okay. Hopefully this time ended quickly. Because after 9 months of being in Cheboksary, we moved again to another country, to Hungary. So, my 5th, 6th and 7th grades I spent in the Russian Embassy School in Budapest. You know, the vibe there was quite different from this in Russian schools. I clearly remember the first day. I was like, sitting after a lesson, waiting for another, and my classmates just surrounded me. They asked, "Hey, you were in Africa?" I said, "Yeah." So they asked the next question. "Can you speak something in African, please?" And I was like, "Hey, it's so funny." I was like, there is no such language as African, blah, 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 but I can speak in French. It was cute, really. And the whole place was really warm, cozy, and cute. Actually, practically all these pupils in the school were from diplomat families or from the migrants' families. So they were all like in the same conditions. Maybe some of you will understand when you left your country and you're missing something from your country, and that's why you're like gathering with the representatives of your country in order to not be so lonely, to feel like you're not alone and you're not so different from others. So that's what about this case. And of course we have lots of fun in that school. Sometimes it reminds me of the Soviet Union schools when there were lots of activities, because we actually have lots of activities back then. It was the school theater, the school sports events, lots of them, and extra classes where we can make something out of wood or out of glass. Really entertaining one. So this kind of inspiration helped me to socialize. I even don't know how to spell this word. Socialize and be okay with myself and with the people surrounding me. In 2009, we returned to Russia, this time for even 2 years. And it was not that scary as it was before. For me, I mean. The only, scary thing about that period was the death of my cat, my first home cat. It was cancer. After that, we took my second cat, and she's still living with me, and I really am happy about her and us living together. So the second year was the 9th grade, when we in Russia have a really essential examination. And after this examination, we either go to the high school for 2 more grades and then go to university, or we go to colleges or even start working. So because of the great meaning of this examination, I had some conflicts with my parents. Аккуратней, котик. I had some conflicts with my parents. The first one about choosing the life path, choosing the profession, blah blah blah. But it ended. It ended because we moved to another country. We moved to Kazakhstan, to its capital, Astana. And what I really don't advise you is to visit this country in winter. It's even colder than in Russia in winter. At the 10th grade, I studied at Kazakh school. And to be honest with you, it was quite, I would say, boring. The thing is, the quality of Kazakh education back then was, lower than the quality of Russian education. So it was easy for me to study. But I have lots of time to do whatever I want to do, and I start writing more, I would say. And with help, and because of the help and the encourage of my classmates, I even had a chance to make a play out of my writing and to make it on a stage. We had some classes in the gym when I read my play out loud for them to introduce it. And they were like, wow, that's so cool. Can you read it again? Please. And that was so, encouraging and supportive. And in fact, they all decided to play in the play on the stage. And it was really, like, I don't know even how to say it in English. So, heartwarming. Yeah, heartwarming. But I needed to transfer to another school, to the private one, with a Russian program, because, as I've said, after the 11th grade, we had another examination to enter the university. And I was aiming to enter the Russian university. So I transferred. However, I got my budget place in the university, not for my examination results, but for my Olympiad for school kids results. I had only one, attempt to do it, because all the Olympiads were in Russia, so I had to fly there. While flying to the city, we were practically near Moscow. It was the first time I saw it. It was so big. Wow, it's metropolis, I know, but still, it was so big, so enormous, I would say, and so green. There were lots of forests surrounding the city, and I would just thought, hey, I want to study here. I want to live in the city. So I did. And in 2013, I moved to Moscow, entering the Presidential Academy for my international relationship studies. So the international affairs were like a compromise and agreement between me and my parents. Actually, they wanted me to study the economics, but at that time I thought it was really, boring. And still I think it's boring. Sorry guys if you are into it, but still, it was my choice. Moving to Moscow, and I really liked that choice. You see, I was not planning on working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because due to my experience, the embassy itself was like a golden cage for me, but still. And I wanted something more about freedom, about being myself and being for myself. Although the international affairs were about, studying global, and I thought that maybe in this global approach I will find something for me. I was really a bookworm back then. I can't lie, I'm still like this. But the most, I think, important and precious experience was meeting one of my professors who taught me to use the system analysis. And from that, the whole my studies began to show the different angle, the different point of view, like meta point of view, seeing the different trends, mechanisms, and the connections. And that's what I really liked, and I still like it, studying, the whole world. However, there was a little problem. You see, when you're studying international affairs, it's better if you have a specialization in something. It may be a language and its country, or it may be an organization like the United Nations, or maybe it can be some topic like the international security problems, maybe global warming, or I don't know, anything, actually anything. But the fourth grade of my bachelor's degree, I didn't have that. So I tried myself in different spheres, like I studied BRICS, I studied soft power and public diplomacy, I studied terrorism, like a NATO system, not in details. Or even I studied the Euro-Atlantic security system, and that included even my visit to NATO and SHAPE headquarters in Belgium, in Brussels and Mons. But still, there was no, deep interest in these topics for me. There was no progress. I mean, finding myself in something, until I met her. the Eurasian integration. But before I'm telling you about that, let me just take a pause and fill this gap with some other stuff. So, before that, you need to know some information about Russian education. Before graduating, you need to have at least 2 weeks practicing for a job position that's somehow connected with your specialization. So in my faculty, we have actually 4 practices after each grade, but 3 of them were like the faculty's proposal. I don't know how to call it. Yeah, but like part of a studying program. So after the first grade, we went to Latvia to study the economic processes and the like factors that affect the economy of Latvia itself and makes it work. After the second grade, we went to Spain because our second language was Spanish. And after the third grade, we went to Kazakhstan, again for me, to see how the organizations like embassies or the United Nations are working in the country and with the population. And we even have 3 or 5, I don't remember exactly, trip to China, and it was some funny joke trip, but I liked it. So I mentioned this in order to tell you that actually some of my experience, to be more specific, the Latvian one, I implemented into my first book. So, like the location of the first book is Ventspils, the Latvian city on the Baltic Sea, not so far from Riga. The fourth practice I had by chance in the Eurasian Economic Commission. I'm 99% sure that you don't know anything about the Eurasian Economic Union, so let me tell you a little bit about it, please. So this union was created by 5 countries. It's Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. So it's like an integration in the European Union, but the level of integration is a little bit lower. Not like this, but like this. So it has a custom union, and actually it's working by surprise in some places. And some, common politics and policies. I think it's policies. So some common policies in different spheres. And of course, it has an organization that leads the whole processes of integration, and the organization is called the Eurasian Economic Commission. So I had practiced there for the whole summer, and I actually fell in love with the idea of the integration and with the processes that were going there. It was the love at first sight. I'm kidding, but still. And before our, bright romance with toxic relations started, I had to wait a year. I ended my bachelor's degree. I entered my master's studies in the same field, and I started looking for a job to earn a living. Well, it was hard time. However, after 9 months of this work, I was invited to the press office of the Eurasian Economic Commission. It was the place where I had my practice the year before. To be honest, I didn't plan to stay there for too long. I mean, in the press office, because the work there was about communication, about writing press releases or working with social medias. It was not actually my sphere, though it was a creative one that I really liked. But back then I thought, no, it's not so serious. You should be more serious, huh? You should negotiate on free trade agreements or something like that. But in fact, it occurred to me that the press office was actually the best place for me to observe everything I wanted. I mean, the whole integration process, the whole mechanisms, not just the part of it, like trade policies or like custom union problems, but the whole picture of it. Because all the information gathered there. And actually, because I was the one that gathered the whole information. You see, I had different jobs there, different tasks. Like from my own projects to speech writing and making different content. Like, videos, photos, other stuff. So for speech writing, for example, for our official representative, I needed to know the whole information on every topic. So I really saw a lot and heard enough. I heard practically every meeting of I need to tell you about the organization. The Eurasian Economic Union has a really big system of bodies, not as big as the European one. There are only 3 bodies, I would say. So the Commission itself, but there are 2 levels. So the Council of Ministers and the Council of Deputy Prime Ministers of 5 countries. Then the Council of Prime Ministers of 5 countries, and after that the Council of the head of the countries. So they have meetings all over the year. In Commission there are lots of them, while the presidents meet like 4 times, maybe a little bit more if it's an emergency. Still, I had the possibility to listen to all the meetings, and not only the open parts, but the closed one, in order to understand the whole situation over the whole union, and it was great. However, the most cherished job I had there was my project, my own project. It was the online course. And what I wanted to do was to gather and to really make a system of knowledge on this big, really big, enormous topic. And I did it, yes. And if you're interested, it's still on YouTube page of the commission. You can find it. And what's interesting about it, actually it was made by 2 people, maybe 2.5. So by me and one of my colleagues. So the whole idea, passport, organization of the filming itself and the post-production, it was all made by us. Yeah, that was really cool. So it was really cool time, and the variety of tasks is really crazy, and so was the tension, and so was the fire, and me burning in it. After all, I ended up burning out. And that's how my therapy started. Not actually because of the tension, but if you remember, I mentioned that when we first went to Cheboksary after Algeria, my family was in a conflict and I got some childhood trauma. So the thing is that after 20 years, it happened. In the Eurasian Commission, I found myself in the same situation, you may say in the same scenario, with the same relationships between other people and me. I was repeating the scenario, and it was really a hard one time because the scenario plus tension, and in fact it ended up into 1 month COVID. While I was suffering physically, I was wondering, why did I end up like this? Where I'm going? What's my plan of the life and what I'm gonna do with this life? Because it was obvious to me that I didn't like the life that I had then. So I decided to at least try to change it. The first conclusion and decision I made was that though it was really interesting to work in the Eurasian Commission and the experience was crazy and joyful, by that time I was not satisfied with it anymore, and there were no possibilities for me to grow And what I mean, it's not about some material things like, money or a new position or something like that. And by the way, by that time, I haven't been promoted, like, I didn't have any promotion. So there were some possibilities material, but they were not what I wanted. I wanted something for myself. And I needed to figure out what it was. But before that, before figuring out, I decided that at least the first step I can do was to set up boundaries with the people that are harmful for me, with the relations that are not good for my health and myself. So I said all the things I wanted to these people in order just to make a safe zone where I can think about my future. And soon I discovered that I actually like to write, and I actually have one really good idea, not just one, but still. And why don't I try to write a book? I always wanted to do it. Why not now? So this is how I returned to the Sibylla Forest. It's the title of my book series. I thought it will be only one book, but it's now 3 books. And I started working on it. It was winter, and one really significant moment in my life back then. You see, every worker in commission has some kind of document. It's a small one, really beautiful, red with golden label, with the meaning that you're a cool guy from a cool organization. I was really proud to get it when I entered the commission. But back then, that winter day, I was working with my plot system. I mean, the book system of characters, of their lives and other stuff. And I wrote it down on a big piece of paper, really big one. And when I left the commission to go home, I suddenly realized that I forgot this document, this beautiful one, but I took this piece of paper, and that's how I realized and decided that the commission was no longer the thing I cherish, but the book and myself in this book were the most important things to me. So in April, I left the commission in order to work with my book. I had 2 tracks of working. The first one was connected only with the book. And I mean, not only writing skills, composition, and writing itself, but also an enormous research work. You see, I was writing about the forest. Yes, it was a fantastic one, but I really wanted it to be as much real as it could be. So realistic that you would just think that it is actually possible while reading about it. So I needed to study a lot, like biology, evolution, and some even biotechnology. I even went to one Russian biotechnological laboratory and saw how to clone plants. Yeah, in this little glass things. And the second thing in the first track was connected with something called soul. I was writing not only about the forest. I was writing, and the main idea of the book was and is that the soul is real and you can spy on it. And that was something I could understand only with the help of intuition. Yes, by that time I got a really big progress in my therapy. I've read a lot books in psychology, and I actually practiced a lot with my dreams and with my ability to use trance as a helper. I mean, to remember some events of the past in details, and to communicate with my inner self with the help of this condition. But still, I was not even sure if the soul existed. But one day was a big day, big event. Just, important something to me. It was a session with my therapist. There is one phenomenon in psychology that's called encounter. And that day, we have that. Let me not just explain what is it, but try to show you and maybe make you feel this condition. It's really interesting one. So first, I will talk about myself. So first I felt it like a little tension, like I was a wild animal that was not that scared but was tense because it heard something strange, something unfamiliar in the forest. And then I felt naked, without anything, like there was no clothes at all. And it was a little bit embarrassing, like I wanted to just close myself, and I even started laughed out of nervous, but that time my therapist explained that everything right, it's just maybe the encounter. And I felt a little bit relieved, and after that I felt like united, the one. I still was naked, but it was not uncomfortable. It was harmonic, I would say. And I felt like my hands started burning like hair. And my therapist said that her chest started burning. And then I looked at her and I saw that she was just another person. I was me and she was her, and we were the different persons, but we were like, I was united in myself and she was united in herself, but we were still seeing each other. And the time was frozen itself, but still it was everything in the time. It's something incredible, really. That time, after the session, I actually thought maybe it was not just a phenomenon in psychology, maybe just something deeper, and maybe it's about souls and their encounter. And that was the first time I let myself to think about soul as something real, as something that I can discuss, as something that I can learn about, and as something I can experiment with and make some decision. So I let myself to think about soul as an object to study. And that's how it all began. After that session, actually, we had another encounter. And really, there were so many cases that showed me a lot more about the soul, I mean my soul, and how it's working. But I think I'm not going to mention it right here, because there will be a video about the soul theory where I mention it as an examples of how I made some conclusions or how to use these conclusions. So if you are interested, please watch the other video. When I decided to study my soul, I actually decided not to study anything from a human world, I mean, any literature or studies from the religion or some esoteric sources, even philosophy, because what I really wanted is to understand myself and my soul by myself. So it was like a stop barrier. No projections of others, people. No, I don't want them. I want my own. Yeah. So it's the last thing I actually want to tell you. You know, by the progress of writing a book and studying my soul, I decided that the real aim, I would say aim, yeah, of my life as I declared it to myself is some kind of integration, and not just integration of my parts like some personas, images and other stuff, but integration myself, my whole self into the world. And my books and my theory are the instruments for me to integrate. So this is kind of welcoming. If there were things that triggered you about my life, I mean, while listening to me today, I'm welcoming you to read my book because actually I implemented all my life in this book. One day I decided that the only thing I can present to myself and to this world is actually myself. So I declare that most of the feelings, most of the situations that are described in this book are actually mine. And they're a part of my life, of my point of view, and of my attempt to sometimes rewrite something or sometimes write something new in myself. I really hope that one day I can finish my books. The first one is published, but still only in Russian, and I'm currently translating it, though it's a little bit hard for me. And I hope that one day I can make a TV series out of it, like, of course, Arcane. It's one of my inspirations, the mixture of 3D and 2D. And I also hope that one day I can actually discover the access to the inner space and, well, to open it public. Because I think that's not a theory, that the idea that can, and actually that is changing my world currently, and can change everything, the whole human organization, from politics, economics, to like education or medicine and other stuff. So I hope that at least you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in me or my ideas, you can follow me on my socials or here. You're welcome.